Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Narayanam Namaskrityam
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
Naran Chaiva Narottamam
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
Tato Jayamudirayat
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
नित्यं भागवतसेवया
Bhagavati Uttamasloke
भगवती उत्तमश्लोके
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी।
Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, title conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. And today's verse is verse number 46. Yatha pavrittirbhutanam
यथा प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
yena sarvam idam tatam
येन सर्वम् इदं ततं
swakarmana tam abhyacharya
स्वकर्मणा तम् अभ्यर्चय
siddhim vindati manava.
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानव।
Yatha pavrittirbhutanam
यथा प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
yena sarvam idam tatam
येन सर्वम् इदं ततं
स्वकर्मणा तम अभ्यर्च्य
स्वकर्मणा तम् अभ्यर्च्य
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानव.
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानव।
Anyone would like to lead?
यथा प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
येन सर्वमिदं ततं
येन सर्वं ततं ततं
सर्वकर्मणा तम् अभ्यर्च्य
सर्वकर्माणा तम अभ्यर्च्य
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः।
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानव.
Wait. Something happened to me. Yata prabhuti bhutanam
यथा
यतः
प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
yenam sarvamidam tatam
येन
येन सर्वम्
सर्वम्
इदं
इदं
ततं
ततं
swakarmanam tama abhyacham
स्वकर्मणा
स्वकर्मणा
तम्
तम
अभ्यर्च्य
अभ्यर्च्यम्
siddhi bindanti manava.
सिद्धिं
सिद्धिं
विन्दति
विन्दति
मानवः।
मानव. Thank you very much. Word by word meaning. Yata, from whom?
Yata
यथा फ्रॉम
from
whom,
whom
Pravriti, the emanation.
prabhriti
प्रवृत्ति द एमिनेशन,
Bhutanam, of all living entities.
bhutanam
भूतानाम ऑफ ऑल लिविंग एंटिटीज,
Yena, by whom?
yena by whom
येन बाय whom,
Sarvam, all.
sarvam all
सर्वम ऑल,
Idam, this.
इदम
idam
दिस,
is
Tatam, is pervaded.
ततम
tatam is
इज परवेडेड,
pervaded.
Swakarmana,
Swakar
स्वकर्मणा
by his own duties.
by
by
his
his own duties,
Tam, him.
tam
him
Abhyarcha,
abhyat
अभ्यर्चया
by worshipping.
by
by
worshipping.
worshipping,
Siddhim, perfection.
सिद्धिम perfection,
Vindati, achieves.
विन्दति achieves,
Manava, a man.
Man
मानव a man.
Translation by Sivan Gesasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
He joy
By worship of the Lord,
by worship of the Lord,
who is the source of all beings
who is the
who is
source
the
of
source
all,
of all beings
and who is all pervading,
and who is all pervading,
a man can attain perfection
a
a
man
man can attain perfection
through performing his own work.
through performing his own work.
Anyone would like to read this page of the purport?
As stated in the 15th chapter, all living beings are fragmental parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yataha. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of life of every living entity. And as stated in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord, by his two energies, his internal energy and uh, external energy and internal energy, is all pervading. Therefore, one should worship the Supreme Lord with his energies. Generally, the Vaishnava devotees worship the Supreme Lord with his internal energy. His external energy is a perverted reflection of the internal energy. The external energy is a background, but the Supreme Lord, by the expansion of his plenary portion as Paramatma, is situated everywhere. He is the supersoul of all demigods, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse.
Thank you very much. Anyone would like to read this page?
Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses, and by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 12:7, Tesham aham samudharta. The Supreme Lord Himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
Let's all chant together. Agyana timirandasya
Vedandasya
jnananjanashalakaya
Shalakaya
Chakshurmilitam yena tasmai
Chakshurumilitamina
Sri
Tasmai
Gurave
Shri
Namaha
Gurave Namaha
Sri Chaitanya Manovistam
Yamanovistam
Stapitam yena
Stapitam Yena
Bhutale
Bhutale
Swayam
Ayam
Rupakadamayam
Rupakadamayam
Dadati
Dadati
Swapadantikam
Swapadantikam
Vandeham Shri
Vandeha
Guru
Shri
Shri
Guru Shri
Utapatakamalam Shri Guru
Tapatakamanam Shri Gurun
Vaishnavancha
Vaishnavancha
Shri Rupam
Shri Rupam
Sagrajatam
Sagrajatam
Sagana
Sagana
Raghunatham Vitam Tam
Raghunathan Vitam Tam
Sajivam
Sajivam
Sadvaitam
Sadvaitam
Savadutam Parijana
Savadutam
Sahitam
Parijana
Krishna
Sahitam Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Devam
Devam
Sri
Sri
Radha
Radha
Krishna
Krishna
Padam
Padam
Sagana
Sagana
Lalita Sri
Lalita Shri
Vishaka
Vishakan
Vitamsha
Vitamshta
He
He
Krishna
Krishna
Karuna
Karuna
Sindhu
Sindhu
Dinabandhu
Dinabandhu
Jagatpate
Jagatpate
Gopesha
Gopesh
Gopika Kanta
Anta
Radha
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Namastute
Namostute
Tapta
Tapta
Kanchana
Kanchana
Gaurangi
Gaurangi
Radhe
Sri Radhe
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrindavaneshwari
Vishwanusute Devi
Vishwanusate Devi
Pranamami Hari
Pranamami Hari
Priye
Priye
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa
Jakalpatarubhyasya
Sindhu
Kripa
Vacha
Sindhuvyevacha
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo
Namo Jai Shri Krishna
Shri Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu
Chaitanya Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri
Sri
Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhar
Gadadhara
Shivas Adi
Srivasadi
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda
Vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama Hare
Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama
Rama Rama
Rama Hare Hare लीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय
त्याय
परमात्मने
परमात्मने बलभद्र
बलभद्र
सुभद्राभ्याम
सुभद्राभ्यां
जगन्नाथाय ते
जगन्नाथाय
नमः.
नमः. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful sangha. Last week we couldn't do because we had some wonderful katha going on in the temple by His Grace Lal Govind Prabhu, which is why we took a break because that was very empowering the katha. So today we are discussing the 46th verse. But if you see the progression of Lord's instruction to Arjuna, Lord first talks about knowledge in different modes, karma in different modes, karta in different modes, buddhi in different modes, dhriti or determination in different modes, sukha or happiness in different modes. Then Lord is saying that he is not affected by the modes. Modes are there, but he is trigunatit. He is beyond the modes. Then he is showcasing the distinction of qualities of the varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudras. Then he goes detail into Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Sudra in three verses. And then Lord is saying, by following qualities of individual work, you can attain perfection. Now, Lord is adding another aspect to it gradually, as you can see so beautifully. He's saying by worshiping the Lord and through performing work, perfection can be attained. So last time we talked about, 2 weeks back, we talked about Lord is saying by doing whatever work you're doing, whether you're a fisherman, whether you are a boatman like Kevot or Kevot Raj, Nishad Raj, who is basically taking to the king of Kevots in the tribal area after Lord Ram went for exile. Whatever work you are doing, with that work you can attain perfection. That's where we left off. Now he's adding one little flavor. He's saying by worshipping the Lord and through performing work, you can attain perfection. So as he's saying, Lord is saying to Arjuna, by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and all pervading, and that's where Lord is being compared with the the personality from whom everything emanated, pravriti, the emanation, bhutanam, all the living entities, from whom everybody came, and by worshipping, by abhyarcha, by worshipping, by habitual worshipping and performing the work is swakarmana. By performing work and by worshipping, you will gain perfection. So it's a very unique thing in this world. We live with a lot of ahankar, and worshipping someone needs a lot of counterintuitive approach from everybody in the society. Every everybody says in everybody in all the society, uh, we have this sense that you should be always a leader. You should never follow anybody, or you should never worship anybody, and you have to have that steadfast ability by which you will be a winner. And that is how the society is taking us. But here, Krishna is saying you have to worship. So this becomes counterintuitive. How do you discuss this? How do you say that the perfection achieved by following qualities of work along with worship is the way to go after? So, so Krishna is saying Siddhim Vindanti Manava. Manava means human beings. And Siddhim means perfection, right? So Lord is saying Swakarmana, by doing your work. If you are a Brahmana, if you do your Brahmanical work. If you are a Kshatriya, you do your Kshatriya work. If you are a Vaishya, you do the mercantile work. If you are a Shudra, then you end up cleaning. By doing whatever you are doing, but dovetailing all of that through a worship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom we all have come from, then we can gain perfection. So, this is a very difficult verse to comprehend within ourselves, because the society has thrown us with a situation that you should always lead, never follow. And worship is often considered to be surrendering. And why is Krishna starting the process of worship, and then eventually he is going in the 18.66 and beyond? He is going to go and try to make Arjuna eventually surrender, is because unless we surrender, unless we worship someone, this ahankar will lead us to the path of ahankar and anger. And when we are angry, we can't judge, we can't see, we can't do the differentiation between right and wrong. So Krishna wants us to lead to a path where we can control our hearts. And here, who resides in our heart? Paramatma. And in our hearts, the soul and super soul, Atma and Paramatma, resides. So unless we worship our inner consciousness, we will never be in a position to control. And that is where in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never says karma puja hai, because karma is your path of activity. But if you add work with worship, not work is worship, but if you add work with worship, you translate that sweet thing into dovetailing your love to somebody, and who that person is, the person you are worshipping, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Alexander was actually a Kshatriya. He was very powerful. He went, he cleared a lot of areas and conquered everything. But finally, when he came to India and he challenged a yogi in India, and yogi, seeing the puffed upness of Alexander, he counter questioned that you are not even able to control yourself. How can you control the whole world? You're so filled with puffed upness and anger that you cannot control yourself. How can you control the whole world? And that striking sentence turned Alexander totally around. And he could, nobody at of that level, of that stature, had the guts to tell that to Alexander. Alexander could have killed that yogi, but yogi who had controlled over his senses, his heart, had the guts to tell Alexander, the greatest soldier of the world, that if you cannot control yourself, how can you control the whole world? That was a revelation. So here, this yogi who is trying to surrender, is he someone who is a coward who could counter Alexander who has conquered the whole world? No, because as he has surrendered to who, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created this and who, from whom we have emanated. And here Bhagavad Gita talks about yata, means from whom, pravriti, from whom we have emanated. And who have emanated? Bhutanam, the entities. Wherever, from wherever we have emanated, if we surrender, like it's when a kid is outside, when kid is going with the parents, kid is absolutely not scared because he's so confident that whatever the case may be, his parents are going to save him, protect him. That's the reason why there is no fear. But once the kid goes alone on the streets, he's very scared to cross the road. When our kids go with us, if you see when they're kids, they hardly care about crossing the road when they are with us. But the same kid, when they go to school initially, they're a bit alert. It's precisely because there is a recourse, there is a situation where you feel warmth and protected under the shed of somebody who is supreme. And that is why worshipping that supreme personality of Godhead with whatever we end up doing. And here, when we discuss about this verse, people talk about why we should keep doing hospitals, schools, colleges. And that is where Srila Prabhupada has not spoken at length about it. It is precisely because when you end up doing these things, these charitable things, you have the audacity to feel empowered, wherein you very much are trying to surrender to that particular charitable contribution. And that reveals compassion in you, which is not bad, which is absolutely fine. But that is not really serving the ultimate truth from where you have come from. You're serving the people, but when you're serving the people, you're getting benefited. Your your internal ego is coming in wherein you're trying to help others. And because of that, the ability for us to surrender to the Supreme is not coping up, which is why in Bhagavad Gita, compassion is talked about. But compassion should not be mistaken into ahankar, which is exactly why whatever you end up doing, you may end up doing all great work with compassionate, charitable intent. But unless we dovetail that into worshipping or loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these are going to be very dry. And and that we can do in any profession, any occupation, because Rishikesa, the master of senses, is controlling us. Unless our senses are controlled, unless we are regulated, we can do anything. We can we can misbehave. We can resort to different things. That's the reason why surrendering, because senses are very difficult to be controlled, and Rishikesha, or the master of senses, is telling us through this words. Krishna, as a third person, is telling Arjuna that whatever work you end up doing, but at the same time, worship who? Worship from whom you have all come from. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, in the first Chatursloki, that Aham Sarvascha Prabhavo. Everything comes from him. And he says it. And here he is kind of linking that. Our study tells us that he is linking it, that wherever the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, or he talks about Yata, he talks about Pravriti, he talks about Bhutanam, wherever we all have come from, we should we should try to worship him. That if by following that principle we develop that internal expression of humility and humbleness, and that makes us a good person in our life. If we intake it in our life, yesterday there was a wonderful sangha where some of the qualities of a devotees were shared, and there was discussion about Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has explained the power of servitorship, wherein he talks about a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Balabhadra Bhattacharya exhibited all the qualities of a good devotee slash surrender soul. He was a servant, but he never had that puffed upness. In our temple services also, whenever we end up doing something, we have an inner sense of puffed upness, which could be shunned as we discuss this verse. Yatya pravriti bhutanam yana sarvam idam tatam sukarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim vindanti manava. To attain perfection, Krishna is not saying go build dams, bridges, do this charitable work. In order to perfect, first we have to understand ourselves. And that understanding of ourselves can lead us to perfection by the doing our work accurately, correctly, with passion, intensity, but at the same time, whenever we end up doing our work, because this work gives us ahankar, if we dovetail that by worshipping to the Supreme Lord, all the reaction which comes from this feeling of proprietorship can be dovetailed into loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why this bhakti or devotion or love for Godhead is supreme, because we feel empowered under the guidance, under the tutelage, or under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we don't have to fear at all. So that's the reason why Srila Prabhupada at this age of 69, 70 came through a very difficult path to do what? To enjoy? No, to see that in this world how much difficulty we all are going through in terms of the vices we possess, and how his process as enunciated by Bhagavad Gita could be helpful to all of us in perfecting our life. As Krishna is saying, that by worship of the Lord, who is source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. We don't have to go to Himalayas, but keep doing whatever you're doing, but worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that will lead us to perfection. So, with that, I'd like to hear your reflections, comments, and questions if you have. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Any comments, Prabhu? Any reflections?
No comment, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have, I'm trying to correlate Prabhuji with the previous verses. Prabhuji, first of all, Prabhuji, the statement you have explained, work is not worship, but work with worship. That's so really, really very enlightening. Thanks for that. The correlation, what I am trying to get is, Prabhuji, the correlation what I'm trying to get is that initially Krishna told that you work according to your qualities, right? But say you have you came out, you did not follow that, right? You did not follow what your qualities are, but you have came out of that qualities, and still there is a scope that if you worship me, there will be no bondage. Basically, can I interpret like that, Prabhuji?
That's right. Absolutely. If you surrender, then there is no bondage, because you have uh, you have handed over the reins of the reaction of the work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why the attachment to that output of your work doesn't create commotion in our lives or create anarthas in our life, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead will take over our reactions, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita.
Right, Prabhuji. My point is, yeah, this part, this verse is very clear, Prabhuji. I was trying to correlate with the previous verses where Krishna first emphasized on doing the guna karma vivag, right? Like
Mhm.
whatever is our primary quality, or whatever we, um, if not primary quality, we may have whatever Krishna has intended us for to do in this material world. We may say we get astray from that, like means we try to get away from that and we are trying to do something different, right?
Mhm, mhm.
That means Krishna is telling, okay, even if that is the case, that's okay, but at least means maintain the status quo of worshipping along with the work, right? Okay, you
Right.
strayed away from that. Um, we didn't follow the means I didn't follow my qualities of work, right?
Hmm. Yeah. So in the previous verse, Prabhu, to your
Right.
point,
Hmm.
Krishna is starting
Right.
to uh, discuss the process of surrender. In the first, in 45, last verse, he talks about by following his qualities of work, whatever it is, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, based on the
Right.
guna, every man can become perfect.
Right.
Now, please fear from me how this can be done. And then the next
Right.
verse, he adds worship into it. So it's
Got it.
like work is important, but if we end up doing the qualities of work without understanding the nuances the work brings to us, whenever we end up doing work, right, we do a good program or do some nice dish, there is
Hmm.
that element of uh, you know accomplishment there, but sometimes this accomplishment turns to
Ego.
pride, ego,
Yeah.
ahankar.
Don't try. Right.
So now he's saying, just the next verse which we discussed today is add worship on it. That means whatever you do with passion, if you add worship with it, then you're basically indirectly surrendering the output of the work onto the lotus feet of the Supreme as a loving devotion, as a love. And by that, all the negative reactions are taken care. And, some of the things is, you have the classic example of, the Mataji who was testing bear and giving it to Ramji. So he was doing it so much of care. It seems she was doing it for a long time. She was waiting for her Ram to arrive, and when Ram arrived, she was filled with so much of love that she was tasting. She was so focused with her work, she eventually was giving those chuta bear after tasting to Ramji, and Ramji accepted it. So that element of love or worship with the work, because she has been constantly doing it forever. She was waiting for Ramji to arrive. She was, and when that channelization of worship or love was deposited, that made her perfect. So, so we have to see that in every step of the way in our ability to do anything.
Mhm.
We have to see the act of the Lord in everything we end up doing, which is why we have to derive that sense of, sometimes we don't, sometimes we become very egoistic and we think whatever we are doing is because of us. But eventually, as you end up doing more and more, you realize that's not what it is. There's a hand of Lord in everything we end up doing, and He's controlling it. And once the realization sets in, so whatever good or bad happens, we think it is the handiwork of Lord. So we try to dissociate ourselves from the proprietorship of the work from us, and we sway it through this loving channel of worship to the Supreme. And that is when we become perfect over a period of time. The perfection is not by doing the work skillfully, the perfection is by intensifying our desire to do the work nicely, perfecting, of course, and then eventually dovetailing it as a offering to the Supreme. Then the work gets a final shape. It's like you have a cake, and until you give the topping, the cake is very bland. It's like a baked product. But once you ornament it, so bhakti is an ornament for all of us. And bhakti is not the real thing. Bhakti is a true ornament. And once we we surround ourselves, our activities, our work, and everything with that tinge of love to the Supreme, it makes it very enlivening.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, what I think somewhere in this purport, somewhere, if I remember, Prabhuji, not in the purport, even in the meaning also, I think Krishna is trying to tell that even any work, even whether it is even if it is not the quality of work, I think even then, I think he's trying to give more what I call, Prabhuji, I'm forgetting the word. He's trying to give us more. He's ensuring us that whatever work you are doing, you do and you worship me, then it is perfection, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to interpret is, Prabhuji, that's what I'm seeing. Am I wrongly interpreting? Even if it is not my quality of work, I have strayed away from my quality of work and I'm doing that work, right? And if we do that with him in the center, then also it is okay, he's telling. He's giving, that's how I'm interpreting. Is it that wrong, Prabhuji? That's what I'm trying to confirm here.
Yeah, but one thing, if we keep Krishna at the center
Mhm.
and not do our prescribed duty, that is also not advisable, in my opinion, based on my understanding. So, and that is where a lot of times people sort of mention that, hey, this person is just doing uh, this and he's not doing any work. So, but we should be aware that we are from a we are from this varnashram dharma. It's a dharma, and we have to perform that dharma with utmost dedication. But at the end, we should worship or keep Krishna at the center and provide.
Mhm.
So we have to be aware of that angle, Prabhu, which just by putting Krishna at the center and not doing anything, not fulfilling the desire of our family or whatever the case may be, is also not recommended.
Right, Prabhuji. That 100% I agree with you.
Mm,
What I'm telling is, if I have not done my swadharma, right?
mhm, mm,
I don't know what is my swadharma, and I did what out of my whims and fancies, thinking
mhm,
that this is my swadharma,
mhm,
right? For example, Prabhuji, the Naxalism, right? Mm, they think that they are doing correct because they are trying to even out the wealth for between the haves and have-nots, right?
mhm, mhm,
So, but that is not that is not actually correct, right?
mhm,
We should do it in a so similarly, if we do some work with our own whims and fancies, I think
mhm,
Krishna is trying to tell that even if you do that, but you worship me,
mm,
first of all, he will give us the intelligence that we are doing wrong,
mhm.
and two, he will still take care of us. That's what I was
Right.
trying to tell that, Prabhuji.
Exactly. Exactly. No, you made it come out nicely in the sense that some people are not knowledgeable enough and they think they're radicalized, they're brainwashed. You see all this, bombings and this, that,
Right.
self-immolation. And so as you put Krishna in the center, Krishna will give intelligence. He'll send someone, he will, through the scriptures, he will come out and speak to you. And then through this iterative process, you will recognize that whatever actions you're doing was not on the right scale, and it was, as you said, it's whimsical in nature. And you'll get a chance to refine, and that has happened in many situations. People have gone astray, and from the scriptures you could see, and now they have come back. Sugriv was a classic example, right? Because Sugriv was astray
Mhm.
after he didn't budge to Ramji after he won the kingdom
Mhm.
back from his elder brother. But Krishna Ram has his own way of getting his devotees back on track, and because of that, Sugriv came back and he just led a wonderful army for the success of the war. So, so Krishna gives intelligence uh, once we surrender. And if we don't surrender, we will be always relying on the TV and commentary, and we're just going to go away. And that is where scriptures give path for of righteousness in our ability to distinguish between good and bad. And you'll see the tenet of scripture in every aspect of our life as we do more and more hearing, more and more chanting, more and more reading,
Right.
and that will lead us in the path. So dharma is actually not a reflection of your common sense. Dharma is something which is from the scriptures, and that
Yeah.
if you follow scriptures, you are dharmic, because that's the definition of dharma. And scripture, not to sound ancient, but actually, if you read the scriptures carefully, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the 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 principles of life is very well uh, identified as described in the scriptures.
Right, Prabhuji. Yeah, like Bilva Mangal Thakur is another example which we are talking, Prabhuji, and Tulsi Das ji, and all,
Mm.
like they were trying to s- stay away from, means get away from their
Valmiki, yeah.
yeah, Valmiki, all, but Krishna, through realization and association with Narada, like for example, he puts us back. I think that's what he's telling here, that even if it is not you're not doing what you're supposed to do,
Mm.
through the intelligence, if you are worshipping me through the intelligence, I will put you on track.
Yeah. And the counter example is Karna. Karna,
Yeah.
a great soul, but wrong
Another
association, no
very
worship.
very good example, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Just the opposite. He went down and down
He
and down.
didn't worship, he didn't put Krishna in the center.
Yeah. Even if he was a great soul,
Mm,
but he went to doldrums because so so that's why scriptures give us the strength
mm.
of our following. And sometimes these people who drive these righteousness by following the scriptures lead us because in this Kali Yuga, this complex age of quarrel and hypocrisy is surviving because of certain people who are following the process of dharma and are following the scriptures accurately. As and we should resort to that. 18.46, a classic example, is we should just not work is worship, it should be work and worship, which is exactly what this is.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thanks for clarifying it.
Any other comments, Roji? Thank you for participating. Thank you, Prabhuji, for joining after a long time. We're missing you. Prajapati Prabhu, he said he's going to join. He's in India. He regularly joins. Last time during the class he called, but we were all in Lal Govind Prabhu's class last week. You know, what a class, what a set of sessions Prabhuji gave. Very powerful. Any other comments before we close?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, all good. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. I'm sorry I joined a little bit late today also. Yeah, Prabhuji, I can relate this verse. There's one more verse in 8 chapter 8 where, Lord says that Tasmat Sarvesu Kalesu Ma Manusmara Itvachare. I mean, do whatever prescribed duties you have, just do it also. But just remember and me and do it also, right? Just in mind, just think of me and do it. I mean, whatever duties we have, right? Like I belong to Brahmin, and I have to do my duties, but same time I have to just remember the God, right? When I do the
Mm.
duty, right? So I think this verse is linking with the verse that today we spoke. Like,
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, if we don't remember the Lord, and especially it is mentioned at the end of our life, right? We have to remember, and that's why we are doing all this process of chanting. And he says this many times that without remembering the Lord, if we end up doing anything, they are fruitless. And thank you for correlating that verse, uh, which is also mentioned. So, quite a lot of people who have studied through the eyes of the acharyas and brahmacharis, who have studied it very closely, they nicely correlate and give a very human value to Krishna's message, because Krishna said it there, Krishna said it here, they are correlated. And thank you for.
So, Prabhuji, let's say if I'm doing something office work, for example, right? So same time, let's say I'm chanting one round of one Mahamantra I'm chanting, okay, while doing my work. So, is it mean like I'm doing and I'm thinking of Krishna, Prabhuji?
See, at the time of doing the work, you are focused on your work, right? But in a subconscious mind, see, the chanting is conscious. You are actively doing. You are, and that is where there is that angle of anartha in my mind, that if you do inattentive chanting, it is considered to be anartha. So what that means is, if you are doing the work, do the work. You don't have to chant. But the point I'm trying to make, or some of you also mentioned in the verse, that the work you are doing at a higher plane is for the satisfaction of the Supreme. It's all surrender to Him. You're giving it to your kid, and kid is going to serve the Supreme. You're doing it for your wife. Wife is going to serve. So indirectly, it is for the. So with that mindset, if you end up doing, is enough. You don't have to chant at that point in time,
Okay.
because there might be other anarthas or consequences. That's how I understand, bro.
So, Prabhuji, I was hearing one of the lecture that one Prabhuji was saying that so whatever work you do, right, during night time before sleep, just you say that for God, whatever activity today I did, I'm just surrendering all the result of all this work. I'm just surrendering to your lotus feet. So, if I tell like that, just is that also kind of work, but don't expect on the results, Prabhuji, is that same, will get the same benefit?
Yeah. So, Prabhu, mm, it's mentioned, as you know, what you just said. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your characters, it become destiny, right? A Chinese philosopher said it. But what you just said, right, in the night, when you utter that word and go to sleep, watch your words. After some time, it will become your action. Lord, I'm surrendering everything to you. Go to sleep. Lord, I'm surrendering everything to you. After 7 days, after 14 days, after a month, it becomes your action. You will get that intent. So, yes, why not? If you want to use that technique to surrender, start every time you go to sleep, because it becomes your action. A lot of times, whatever utterance of words we do, it eventually becomes our actions. If you have something good for somebody, it will come out of you. If you think somebody is envious and you share that, it will come out. These things, see, Krishna is in our heart. He's seeing every action we end up doing. It will come out. So let that spirit of uttering that surrender be in your life, so that it becomes your actions. Words becomes actions. Okay, bro?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
So next Sunday is Ram Navami, appearance day of Lord Ram. Very powerful day. So a lot of programming is there in the temple. So attend. Lord Ram's message is very powerful, very inspiring actually. Ramayana, and last weekend it was Hanuman Ke Ram. Hanuman being the greatest devotee, and Prabhu has his nice way of representing anyway. So it was a double booster for a lot of attendees. So please attend uh, Ram Navami in our temple, and there are some very important appearance day of some acharyas of our movement coming up. You might have seen the invite. Please join if you are available. And a lot of nice programming is in store. So enrich yourself with great devotional experience, and strengthen your ability to worship and surrender with work and worship as the outcome of today's discussion. Any other comments anybody wants to add? So if there is none, let's all offer obeisance at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha Kalpataru Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavesha Namo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.
Vaishnavrinda ki
Ki
jai,
Jai,
Bhagavad Gita ki
Ki Jai,
jai, Prabhupada ki jai,
Radha Ki Jai,
Gaur Premanande,
Premanande
Hari
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 Bol.
Bol.